Hello everyone, welcome to the Ivy Bridge E build. Now, I talked about this a little bit in the last video, but I want to briefly explain why I'm building this machine. So, I've kind of had a need for a modern-ish, but simple-ish PC in my bedroom that I could use to burn discs, watch videos, or read things, or whatever I might need to do while I'm up here working on other stuff. And I also want it to be able to play some games so that I can run things on my CRT monitor from Steam and other modern distribution platforms. I already have a Mac Mini, an M1 Mac Mini up here, and it's what I do most of my day-to-day stuff with. Actually, this video will probably be edited on it. The last video was edited on my gaming PC, but this is a ABC HD camcorder, and ABC HD just doesn't work well with anything except Final Cut, apparently. So, back to Final Cut it is, I guess. Yeah, like I do homework on the Mac. I do, I answer emails, or whatever I might need to do day to day, I do on the Mac for the most part, but sometimes you need a PC. And all my PCs that are modern are downstairs, directly under this room, actually. So, I had this cheapo AMD A10 system from my 2013 setup originally, and it died. A very unceremonious death. It just kind of started rebooting itself randomly, and I'd had it for less than 3 months, so I wasn't too partial to it. So I asked around a little bit. Mainly, I actually only ended up asking one friend if they had anything extra, and my buddy Michael passed this LGA 2011 X79-Deluxe motherboard to me. Here it is. Has an i7 4930K on it. That's a 130 watt CPU. And this is a reference style GTX 760. It's not a reference card. It is an EVGA card. It's a little bit better than the reference one, but it's got the reference style cooler on it, as you can see with the blower fan and all the normal outputs on the back. It needs 2 extra pins on the power compared to the reference one. It's an unexciting, but it's an okay card. It does well enough. It's a 150 watt card, I believe. Maybe 170? I think it's 150 though. Regardless, given that this has the potential to be like a sort of a dream build, I want to upgrade this to a 780 Ti, especially given that they are fairly cheap now. You can get a 780 Ti for $60 at this point. A reference style one, but it's a 780 Ti. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. That's cool. And the 780 Ti still holds up. It doesn't have native DirectX 12 support, but it performs about as well as an R9 390. It consumes a little less power. Don't get me wrong, the R9 390 does beat it, especially in Vulkan and DirectX 12. But for $60, you can even find them for like 45 if you know where to look. I can't complain. I can't complain. This cooler is my Hyper 212 Evo from my Skylake builds several years ago. It's actually slightly out of the shot, but it's got some heat pipes on the top and stuff. It's not that exciting. The fan isn't even the original one. This is probably not the best fit, but the original fan is actually on a different CPU cooler now because it's just what I had in arm's reach at the time. I don't like using this cooler. It ruined one of my motherboards because one of the nuts on the mount was defective. But this motherboard socket, the LGA 2011 socket, uses a slightly different mounting system from the other LGA sockets. So I wasn't worried about this one breaking, because it doesn't work the same way at all. It was way easier to do. Originally this had some liquid cooler on it that failed, and I didn't want to try to mess with that. Normally I would actually show on video me putting the cooler on a motherboard in a project like this, but I'm sure you've all seen a million times coolers being installed on motherboards before, and I wasn't even sure this was going to fit. So I was trying to hurry up and figure out if I needed to also order a cooler when I ordered the case, which I still don't have, by the way. It's like 3 days out still. I don't know what the deal is with that, but yeah, it's annoying. I did get this today. We'll talk about that in a minute. For sound, the motherboard sound I'm sure is fine, but I want to be able to use EAX and some other hardware-accelerated sound features that modern motherboards don't support. So I have the Sound Blaster Audigy RX. This is actually just the Sound Blaster Audigy 4 chip on a PCI Express card. I do have a Sound Blaster X5 Titanium. It's in my Mac Pro, and the reason I chose to do that, even though that's technically a better sound card, is because apparently the Audigy drivers for Windows 10 are a lot more stable. The X5 drivers have some weird issues on Windows 10, from what I understand. That's all word of mouth. I've never confirmed it, but because of that, I just decided, yeah, it might be a little inferior sound quality-wise, but I want it to at least work. You know what I'm saying? I also forgot to mention this. The motherboard is X79-Deluxe, which is Asus's second Deluxe X79 board, because the X79 chipset is actually from the Sandy Bridge E era, and only has PCI Express 2.0 and maybe a couple of SATA 3 ports. I think most of them are SATA 2, though. This motherboard has a PCI Express 3.0 controller on it that is attached to the CPU, I guess. Or maybe the CPU has one built in, and if you use an Ivy Bridge E CPU, you get PCI Express 3. I'm not entirely sure how it works. I know only about half the PCI Express slots are Gen 3 slots, and only 8 of the 12 SATA ports here are SATA 3. These 2 are SATA 3, these 4 are SATA 2, and these 6 on the right are all controlled by the chipset, the X79 chipset. These 4 are SATA 3 and are controlled by a Marvell chip. And these 2 are SATA 3 and are controlled by an ASMedia chip. I don't know why there's 3 storage controllers, but there are. Oh yeah, I actually pulled this off of the system that I was throwing out because I did like some crappy AM2 Plus board. But Asus used to do these things. You plug your front panel stuff into this, then you just plug this into the motherboard like so. It's way easier than reaching down there and trying to plug them all in individually. So I stole that off of a broken board. We'll use that on this build too. The RAM is G.Skill Ripjaws X. I think it's DDR3, 1866. There's 16 gigs of it. I could probably go 32 if I wanted to look for the exact same RAM, and probably not even spend that much, but I haven't bothered yet. SSD. This computer probably wouldn't have come with an SSD originally, given how early it was, but if you were really made of money at the time, you might have put a 64 or 128 gig SSD in there. I mean, maybe a 256? That would have been a lot of money, though, in 2013, I think. This is a 500 gig 850 EVO. This is my personal drive from several years ago. It's at 98% health, and it still outperforms by quite a bit any of my cheaper Kingston SSDs that I've bought for other computers. So I decided I ought to use it for this project anyway, despite how worn out it kind of is. This drive I actually salvaged from my dad's old computer yesterday. This is a 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda. It is the ST2000DM001. Some early units of these are notorious for failing in bizarre ways. Never really fully, completely dying, but just making terrible noises and slowing to a crawl. I had one of those that did that. It was a 2011 unit, though. It's in a YouTube video on my channel from years ago. This is a 2013 unit from an old HP machine, and this thing's great. It sings. I just did a benchmark on it. It does like 210 megabytes per second sequential. It's a very fast, very quiet drive. And this is period correct, so somebody probably would have bought one of these for this machine originally, if they weren't, buying into the Western Digital Black gamer brand thing. Which I did compare this to a contemporary black drive, and this outperformed it, in sequential access at least. The black did a little better in random, but I think it's because it had more platters, and the blacks get way hotter. Way, way hotter. They need so much cooling. They might be a little more reliable in the long term than a Seagate drive, but this outperformed that drive by 60 megabytes per second. This does 210, that drive did 152 or something. So it's pretty significant. DVD drives. Unexciting. This is actually pulled from the broken A10 machine I was talking about. It's just it's a TSST DVD burner. And the second one is an Asus DVD burner that I bought for my Skylake machine years ago. I don't know why I swapped it out on that machine, but I did. I know it works fine. It's got some mounting screws for some old server piece of crap in there, I think. You might be asking, why the heck 2 optical drives? And the answer is because I actually burn a lot of CDs in this room when I'm dealing with old computer stuff. Well, not so much anymore because most of my CDs I need are already burned, but certainly used to be a very common thing for me to burn 2 CDs at once. The power supply. I just got this today. I removed it from the shrink wrap and the bubble wrap. It's all in here. It's even got the power cord still sealed. It came with some cable ties and screws. And here's the power supply. I have not plugged it in yet. So we're going to do that. Oh man, that smells so good. Sorry, I love the smell of new computer parts. This is, as you can see from the logo, this is a pretty old model actually. And rather humorously, despite the fact that the box says copyright 2019, it says Haswell Ready on it. Haswell chips were the 4th gen Intel chips. This is technically an Ivy Bridge chip, but it does start with a 4. So this is a period correct power supply. However, I bought the 500 watt. And that was stupid. I think I could have paid literally $2 or $3 extra for the 600 watt. I just wasn't thinking about it. It's a good enough power supply. It's not anything super crazy. It's 80 plus. Not 80 plus bronze, not 80 plus silver, 80 plus. Just 80 plus. It's a very low certification, but it is certified at least. It's not modular. It's conventional. This is not going to be enough power supply. That's kind of a problem. I don't know why I did that. I should have looked a little harder and thought a little harder about it. This would run this machine as is, barely. It would run the CPU and GPU and the motherboard, barely. It's not going to do well at it. It's not going to run at very high efficiency. I really need a 600 or above for this machine. This motherboard is known to be very power hungry because of all the weird extra controllers it has on it. So I need to do something about it. Also, I just realized I kind of moved everything out of frame, didn't I? Let's fix that. Anyway, so such is how this project is going already. I don't have the case yet. I'm not even ready to build the machine, and I've already screwed up. So I'm going to test this power supply here in the floor of my room with my power supply tester tool. And then we're going to install this in my Skylake machine and steal the Skylake 750 watt. That's what we're going to do. I don't know what else to do. The Skylake has an R9 390 in it, which also really wants a 600 watt, but the 6600K is a pretty efficient chip, all things considered. It's only a 90 watt chip, so I think it'll balance out in the end and be okay. This is going to be running pretty close to its ceiling, way outside of its peak efficiency range, I'm pretty sure. And I'm a little concerned about stability, but it was 40 bucks. I mean, it's a really cheap power supply, really. I can't complain too much. I don't even use that machine that much anymore, so I think it'll be okay. Yeah, so let me kind of get to this real quick. Okie doke. Well, I got my nifty little power supply tester tool here. It's not like a super precision instrument or anything. It's just some cheap Chinese thing, but it's actually pretty neat, and it's not done me wrong so far. I'll start with this pretty low-end Rosewell power supply that my dad used in his old PC. It's a 500 watt as well, and it's not 80 plus or anything. It is pretty bog standard, and it's got really short cords. It's really designed for a micro ATX machine. Maybe it's designed for what he was using it for, to throw in some random, you know, cheapo PC and turn it into a gaming PC. I'm not entirely sure. So basically the way this works, you take the motherboard power connector, you plug it in to the side here, then you take your other connectors, the 12 volt EPS connector right here, and a PCI Express graphics card connector, 6-pin right here. Which, by the way, the reason I wasn't intending to use this CPU or this PSU in the first place is because not only are the cords really short, but its PCI Express connectors are only 6-pin. There is no 8-pin. Technically, you can drive a graphics card without an 8-pin, but it's not a good idea. Please don't do that. Optionally, you can plug in a SATA connector to check the voltages going to that plug as well. So, and the Molex connectors are just duplicates of that. So now that you've got all this plugged in, I'm gonna get that in frame for you there. I turn on the power supply, and you get that number right there is how many milliseconds it took for the power good signal to light up. These three over here are just indicators of the voltages coming out of the SATA connector. So they're good. It's kind of falling out anyway though. You got your 5 volt rail, all your various 12 volts and 3.3 and 5 volt standby there. Yeah, that's about it. So I'll try this on the new power supply now, make sure it works. Turn this off. And that blinking is not normal. This cheap power supply does that, and that's kind of concerning. I think it's just when it's really outside of efficiency range, but yeah, it like turns power delivery on and off really fast. It's goofy. Oh, well, I didn't show you. I do think this power supply is neat in that it's actually a dual 80mm model in 2013 or whenever this was, and they glow blue. See, it does the blinking thing there too. But yeah, it's neat. I'll let you know how to read this. We will together find out whether or not my Thermaltake 500 Smart Series is defective. I don't see why it would be, but best to test things before you plug them into a motherboard, right? Especially a motherboard that you can't really replace. Unwind all our cords here. It's actually not crazy. Oh, I don't like that anyway. It's got both PCI Express connectors on one strand, which is fine. Like, this will be fine for the 390, it would be fine for the 780, but I don't like that. It's got an APS, one strand of SATA, two strands of SATA, 3 Molex, and a floppy connector. Pretty standard stuff. It's not too cluttered, and decent cable length. How does that compare to this? So, pretty dang long. I can reach all the way over there with it. PCI Express connector on this power supply is like half as long. So, there you go. I'm not making that up. Now we will plug this one in. Yeah, man, what was I thinking? 500 watts for an Ivy Bridge E build. You can also tell this is an old model because, like that Rosewheel power supply, it's got the detachable 24 pin. Modern power supplies don't have that. They do usually still have detachable 8 pins. I'm not a fan of this system for that, though, to be honest. You know what? Screw the 8 pin. I don't want to try to disconnect that. Let's plug in a SATA connector. I think I'm doing that upside down. Make sure the switch is off. It was not. Plug it into power. It's a little bit of a tight connector because it's brand new. Switch it on. Wow, that is quiet. Ooh, smell those new components. Let's have a look here. You can also tell when a power supply is cheap because when it's unloaded, these voltage rails will float way up like what's happening on that Rosewheel. Not happening here. Looks good. All spot on across the board. Let's see what it does when we turn the switch off. Notice how it didn't blink like it was having a seizure? Now, just for fun, let's plug this into our motherboard and just check if it'll even drive this board. I'm sure it will. I ran this off of a 500 watt already when I was testing it. A much older one at that. It was a Cooler Master for like a Pentium 4. That's not... What am I doing? That is not the CPU connector. I think that's all we need. Alright. Turn our switch on. Motherboard lights up. I've got the speaker connected, and it's got a post indicator anyway. So, turn it on and see what it does. That is a quiet computer. And that error code is because there's no integrated graphics and I don't have a graphics card plugged in. So, power supply works. It's powering a computer. The computer is very unhappy because I have nothing plugged into it. Not a bad power supply. Also, I love that high-end Asus boards have these built-in buttons. And they're really nice. They're not janky either. I want to see something here. It did flicker. I have multiple cheaper power supplies where the 5-volt standby rail flickers a bit. I don't know why that happens. I don't know enough about power supplies, but I think this is a darn good power supply, given its price, I should specify. Let's go put it in our Skylake machine. If you'll please excuse the mess. Not that you can see much of the mess here, but... Oh man, I'm not even sure where to sit. Oh, there's just junk everywhere. Oh, it's not even just that. This room serves a bit of a different purpose than it did the last time I was filming anything in here, and just a lot more cramped in here now. Welcome to my old gaming PC. Well, that's all there is to it. We're going to steal its power supply and put the new one in. Not that I think this is a better power supply, per se. It's just more powerful. Efficiency-wise, it is better. But there's a lot more to a power supply than efficiency. We have an Intel stock cooler on a 6600K, which is really not a supported configuration, I don't think. I'm doing it anyway. I don't have another option, really. It works well enough. I just leave it turned all the way up all the time for the most part. Here's our R9 390. I guess we just gotta start unplugging things, huh? Yeah, this is a fully modular power supply. Oh my gosh. Ow! Oh, it's sharp. I'm sure these are like cheap Chinese connectors. As you can see, it's a PC power and cooling Firestorm gaming power supply. It weighs a ton. It's not like it's made of nothing, but like PC power and cooling, I have no idea who actually made this, but I'm sure it wasn't them. Not that, from what I understand, they're a pretty good storefront, I think. Let's turn this around, I guess. Move the other side panel and turn it around to the back. I love this case. It's the Deep Cool Tesseract. The annoying thing about it is there's just not a lot of room. Oh no. Oh gosh dang it. There's not actually a place to route the CPU power connector. I'm going to have to remove the motherboard, or at least unscrew it. I don't have to completely remove it. I've got to unscrew all the screws from the motherboard and lift up that corner so I can get that cable out. I'll do it. I'll do it, but you better believe I'm not feeding that one up there like that. But yeah, like I was saying, that's a good example. There's not a lot of cable routing space. There's enough to make this work, but like the amount of space between the edge of the case and the actual side panel, I mean, there's more space in the side of like an Apefia Cruiser 1 from 2002 or whenever that was. I do like this power supply. It's got these nice thin ribbon cables with they feel pretty high quality, really. I say they're thin, but I just mean that in the sense that they get out of the way. And there's plenty of space between these SATA connectors. You can reach pretty long distances between drives. As you can see, I'm literally only using one to get from the hard drive and the SSD all the way up here to the optical drive. Which, now I need to get the optical drive unplugged. Okay, that's done. What else is there? Oh yes. There's this Molex to SATA adapter that is specific to the toolless hard drive bay that I use. And the reason I'm having to use that is because this also powers the activity light for it. This should be free now. It's hooked on something, but... Okay, there's that. Let's unplug the motherboard now. Man, I can barely get my fingers in there to do that. Okay, there we go. Like I said, it's just a tight case. Very, very tight case. And with this motherboard, the SATA ports are angled toward the side, which I don't know why Asus always does that. And that makes it even worse, somehow. Okay, well anyway, there's all the important bits except for the CPU power connector undone. Let's turn it back around to the front. Start pulling these babies out. Power supply is a little bit weird. The SATA and the Molex connectors use this, from what I can tell, is a non-standard single row connector. I've never seen another power supply use this. Maybe it's some standard and I'm just not aware of it, but I do think it's odd. But admittedly, they're a lot easier to plug in than the 6 pins that most power supply companies use for those. Let's go ahead and remove the motherboard power here. And there we go. There's the main module. You can kind of tell they cheaped out on this one because this is still ketchup and mustard. Not nice jet black like the other ones. At least they put, you know, sleeve over it. I gotta give them credit there. Now to remove the power supply with this screwdriver that is slightly too small, because any normal screwdriver that you buy is slightly too small for computer screws, and I don't understand why. There we go. Here's our power supply. It's gotten a little bit dirty in there, but nothing too bad. It's a nice red LED 140mm fan. It's pretty hefty. Like I was saying before, there's not a ton in the way of cooling in there, as is often the case with these big fan power supplies, but clearly the electrical components in there are worth something, because it's nice. What have we got here? We've got, allegedly, 22 amps on the 5 and 3 volt, 62.5 on the 12 volt. For a total, actually, it claims you can do all 750 watts on the 12 volt. It doesn't give you a cumulative, or no it does, it says 750 total. Okay. Firepower Technology. What? Firepower Technology is who made this, I guess? It looks a lot nicer than a lot, like this part looks a lot nicer than it does on some name brand ones. It's made in China. It's not designed in China, I don't guess. I mean, maybe it is. It's got English, hazardous voltages contained within this power supply. Not used as serviceable. Return to service center for repair. Not Englishy. Okay. I don't know what language that is. My assumption is it's some East Asian language just because this one over here is Chinese. But I don't know. And it does say switching power supply in Chinese first. And it says semi-modular. Well, it's fully modular. So that's kind of concerning. I gotta say, though, it seems to be a pretty good power supply. It does a couple of weird things, like the 5-volt standby flickers when you unplug it. But it doesn't coil whine. It doesn't do anything concerning. The fan does plenty of work at a very, very quiet level. I think this will be a good fit for our Ivy Bridge Extreme machine. This is proven to be better than the EVGA that it replaced. It says 80 plus gold. I don't know if it really is, but I guess I trust it. Filter down there on the bottom is not doing a ton, to be honest. Not that I guess I could expect much. It's just kind of a... Oh. Well, it's doing something. Oh yes, I've got to get the CPU connector out. So, like I was saying, to do that, I've basically got to unscrew the whole motherboard. To do that, I think I have to remove the GPU. This has turned into an annoying thing. I knew there was a reason I didn't want to do this. This GPU, they claimed it was shorter than it actually was. It barely fits in this case. Like, they measured the card, not the cooler, which is so dumb. I don't know why they did that. My Vega 64 card that I had was longer. The electronics were longer, but the cooler was shorter. So even though I bought a new case to use that card, thinking it was going to be too long for this case, it turns out it would have fit better than this one, which is so freaking dumb. I actually almost could have done this without removing it, but how many motherboard screws are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I've got to remove 9 screws just to safely unfeed this stupid power plug. Give me a break. I'm terrified anytime I do work where I have to touch a motherboard now that I'm going to kill the motherboard, since I killed my B150 trying to install that cooler. I know it was the cooler's fault, but it still concerns me. I mean, I guess technically it was my fault, but my cooler was defective, so I'm going to blame it on that. Okay, yep, board is free. Just going to slightly tilt the machine up, grab hold of this cable, lift the board away from the case, and out it comes. Alright, now we refasten the board. Okay. Motherboard reinstalled, thankfully. Now, it's time to raise the machine. Here's the cable we saved. Oh wait, no, it's not time yet. I didn't put the GPU back in. Go me. Oh, this is always so annoying. I used to have a trick I did pretty consistently to get this in and out. I haven't had to do it in a while. There we go. Okay, now it's time to raise the machine back up. Here's our new power supply. Go ahead and drop this down in here. Yeah, the back doesn't really look any different, does it? It's just another black power supply with a big fan in the bottom. What is the deal here, dude? It's been too long since I've worked on computers consistently. I took a long break from doing stuff like this, to be honest, guys. Rusty. It's funny, the little skills you lose when you take a break from your hobby for a while. Mine is apparently screwing things in effectively. Okay, got that. That's the easy part. Let's find our CPU connector first. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So this, first things first, this is being fed up this way. I don't think it's long enough anyway on this power supply, but I'm not running that behind this time. We're just going to take it up here and lazily plug it right in, because that was miserable. That was actually a common complaint about this case, was that you couldn't run the CPU power connector up there very easily. When I used to actually care about the way the inside of this computer looked, I decided that I was always going to do it the right way. Well, I don't care anymore, because this computer is just an extra computer. And it's not that exciting anymore. I do use it from time to time. I've been using it more lately because I've often had my main PC hooked up to the TV for playing games or whatever. I still don't use it that often. Where's the connector on the motherboard? It's right here, isn't it? That's what I did before. Yeah, there we go. Got that. Pull it through. Not going to be the cleanest thing in the world. Again, that's okay. Okay, I think I got it. Yep. Next up. Well, I might as well plug the GPU in. It's also going to be running front. There's like no fancy way to do this in this case anyway, so nothing crazy. It doesn't look too bad though, honestly. Now I think we're going to have to run this up there. I think we're going to use all the cables, actually. Let's go ahead and feed all these back. I guess it's an advantage of using a more modern power supply like this, because last time I put a 500 watt in this machine, I was using it for like a
small, lightweight server thing. I didn't have a graphics card in it at the time. And I used an old Thermaltake Tough Power 2. And those things are designed to run lots of different ages of computers. And they've just got a million different connectors on them. And there was like no room left in the case for that. Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll plug this one in here. If I can get it. These are always fun. Oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. Then we'll run, I'll do SSD. Oh, that's very tight. There we go. Hard drive right here. Ah, the tolerances on these connectors are really small. I got one more piece of the puzzle here. I think I'm just gonna feed it here. There we go. Before you ask, actually no, I don't really use the optical drive in this machine. I used it once recently, I think, but it doesn't get used very often anymore. When this was my main computer, it got used a lot. I really do use optical drives still. Okay, so now we got to follow the rules here, and we have to do a smoke test before we close the computer up, because if you don't, well, then you're going to get magic smoke because you didn't check. It's kind of like a Sierra adventure, game from the 80s, where like if you don't, it just because you didn't check something, it's going to happen. Never have managed to finish one of those. Anyway, let's flick the switch on. We got 5 volts standby. The lights are coming on the motherboard. Oh, I have knocked the USB header out. That would have disappointed me later if I hadn't noticed. Power it on and see what happens. Seems good to me. It's playing about no keyboard. Yeah, you can tell this is a smaller power supply. They really do make them different sizes depending on the wattage. We'll give this thing a bit of a stress test here in a minute. I'll run something on here that I know is kind of stressful at least. I don't know if this will shut down if I hit the power button, to be honest. Might just try to go to sleep. Well, that's okay. We'll just pull the plug and wait for the lights to stop breathing. This thing sure holds power for a while. There we go. So now we just gotta try to get the side panel back on, which, oh gosh, this is never fun on this case. There's just not enough room, like I said earlier. Oh, you have to really smush it down from all angles and just hope for the best. I'm not pulling it off at the moment. Got it. Headgum. Alright. Put the screws back in. Oh, what fun that was, huh? I've certainly done worse. At least that went about as I expected. Okay, now we're going to find out how this thing fares. Well, here we are at the Skylake's desktop, just to show you. So, we've got i5 6600K, that's running at stock speeds, I'm not an overclocker myself, and an R9 390. This is a 91 watt TDP. This is a 275 or 225, one of the two. I think it's 275, honestly. It's pretty far up there. And I forget what else we've got in this machine. I think we have 16 gigs of RAM. Yeah, 16 gigs of DDR4 2400. These 390s are now on legacy driver support, so you can't run a lot of modern stuff on them, but we should be able to run 3D Mark Firestrike, I bet, if I get the Ethernet cable plugged in to download it. So we're going to try that and see if the computer turns off or some crap. I have a really fast internet connection now, so barring anything stupid. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I think the stupid thing happened. There we go. I have a very fast internet connection, but it's unstable. Go figure. I don't own any of the newer, like, super new benchmarks anyway. Oh, yeah. Huh. I got this achievement, and I think it was from trying to run it on a computer with a modified graphics driver installed or something. I'm not entirely sure what caused that, but it was funny. Okay, we got Firestrike installed here now, and frankly, I guess TimeSpy is really the DirectX 12 benchmark. This is kind of an older one, but I don't think this GPU ever did well on TimeSpy, so we're going to do the one that I think it does okay on. And see if the computer just kicks off when it starts running. I have had that happen before. Well, when I had my old EVGA power supply, the coil wind would literally start right here, so that's at least... Oh boy, we got Radeon software. I'm sure that's not going to hamper performance at all. Gosh, this hard drive's working overtime. The CPU fan is being as annoying as always. I've got it set to the highest profile, so it should be pretty aggressive. Well...
Wow, in my memory this runs so choppy because I mainly tried to run this test on a GTX 650. This looks great on here. I kind of forgot. Hit the mute button. And hard drive is still doing things. Fans aren't going too crazy. Yeah, I guess it'll be okay like this. Alright guys, well, 3D Mark Firestrike completed without incident on here. There was a little bit of coil whine from the power supply, but nothing serious. I think it's going to be just fine like this. Like I said, probably operating outside of the efficiency range, but nothing terrible. And I found the bag for the power supply modules. It says PC Power and Cooling on it. Here is our lovely Firepower Technologies Firestorm power supply that I have trouble trusting, although it literally has never given me any reason to distrust it, to be completely honest with you. It's been a trooper. It's been running in this machine for quite a while. And now we have a power supply for our Ivy Bridge Extreme build that will make it future-proof, if you could call it that. One last thing before I wrap this up until the case comes in on Monday. I'm back upstairs now. I got our 750 watt power supply here now. PC Power and Cooling Firestorm Gaming Power Supply by Firepower Technology Inc. This really is a sketchy looking label, but again, it's got some weight to it. It's not like it's not made of nothing. It doesn't rattle anything untoward like some sketchy power supplies I've have done. But regardless, we are going to run this through the power supply tester because last time I had this thing out of a case, I didn't have the power supply tester. So I got to plug the main module back in, then I got to do the CPU. So we've got our two cables here, just like we did before. This really is kind of cheap though. Look at this. Motherboard power connector. The 4-pin extra part is like made out of a different material. That's goofy. Never seen that before. Anyway, I get that plugged in and do EPS connector over here on the left. Now, one other weird thing about this, the power plug is sideways. As far as the implications that has on anything, it's neither here nor there. It's not like it actually matters. It's just a thing that I think is interesting. Anyway, go ahead and turn the thing on. It took a hair longer for the power good on this, which is kind of to be expected given that it's a slightly cheaper design. But, honestly, 12.2 volts, that's well within acceptable bounds. Frankly, most older power supplies are just like that unloaded. The thermal take being right at 12 was pretty impressive, to be honest. Now this one, like I mentioned before, this one does blink the 5 volt standby when you flick it off, so had a lot of power left in it. I was still hearing the speaker beeping. Now, it takes a few seconds before it does it, but I don't think it's doing it right now. Or maybe it is and you're just not seeing it on this thing, I don't know. In any case, there are a few points where you can tell that this power supply is kind of subpar on the quality front. The fan is clearly like a cheapo sleeve-bearing fan, and you can hear those sleeve bearings. You always have been. It's not that they're worn out, they just always sounded like that. But it spins freely, so I'm not worried about it like ceasing to function or anything. The red LEDs, this is a preference for me really. I would rather it be blue, but it is kind of neat to have a giant red fan in a power supply like this. Like I keep mentioning, it feels solidly built. It doesn't smell like it's burning or anything. It actually is still clean as a whistle in there, really. It's a good power supply. It genuinely, seriously is a good power supply. With a 62.5 amp 12 volt rail, you can't really go wrong on a project like this, I wouldn't think. So, probably good that we swapped those. I actually spent quite a bit more time with the Skylake machine after swapping the power supplies and just kind of, I played some Minecraft on it and stuff, and never once did I feel like it was struggling based on a sound or anything. I think that's a good sign. I think that power supply is going to do just fine on that machine, and this one will be the correct choice for our Ivy Bridge Extreme build. So anyway, for me it's going to be 3 days. For you it's going to be less than a second until the case comes in. But until then, I'm going to sign off and clean this crap up, and then when I come back, hopefully we'll have a computer to build. Well guys, it is Monday now, and Monday means that we've got a computer case. I tried and I tried to get a just regular like front shot of this, to be honest, but this camera just isn't wide angle enough. I am zoomed all the way out, right? Yeah. This is good what we're gonna get. Now, I'm not really one to do unboxing videos anyway, so we're just gonna make this quick. I'll show you the box because I always do like boxes for computer cases. I think they're neat. See, we got a nice monochrome print of the case with a thing that says color and a little blue like bargain store sticker that indicates that I've ordered a blue case. On the side here, they so unkindly stuck the UPS label over this lovely sketch of the case. You can see all the regulatory stuff here. Designed in Sweden. Oh, I didn't know Fractal Design was Swedish. And then on the back side here, we've got this exploded view of the case. It looks like it comes apart pretty far, honestly, for a case as simple and cheap as this one is. The other side is just some uninteresting specs, how many drive bays you get, number of expansion slots, motherboard compatibility, all that stuff, how many spots to mount fans you get, your dust filters, the radiator mounts, you know, all that stuff. But we're not here for that. We're here because we want to build a computer from 2013, and this thing kind of looks like it's from 2013. So let me get my really dull Swiss Army knife that my cousin gave me for Christmas when I was in middle school, and we'll cut this box open. Oh gosh, remember how I said it was dull? It won't even cut the cardboard, so I have to go through the tape. Here we go. There we go. Alright. Packed pretty simply, but honestly, simple is usually best on things like this. 2 giant pieces of styrofoam holding this thing in place. Oh, and so much static that my leg hair is standing up. Alright. Guess it is December, after all. I honestly still do slightly wish I'd gotten a thermal take for period correctness, but this is so much nicer looking of a case. Look at that beautiful paint. Wow. Not really in the shot, am I? Well, you can kind of see it at least. User's guide. I might need that. I might not. We'll see. Get this out of its plastic prison. Wow, that's a pretty sharp looking case, dude. This is a silly nitpick, but this is just me being me. I wish the power button was, you know, not a little tack switch, but more like a nice clunky switch like the old days. I miss that. My Deep Cool Tesseract is the newest case I've ever bought that still had an old style power button. Anyway. Got some protective film on the, possibly the inside and the outside of this. Now let's see when we take this off. Normal thumb screws. Oh, where's my screwdriver? That one's stuck. Oh, are they supposed to be captive? I think they are. And I just pulled that one all the way out. What do you know? And yeah, protective film inside and out, so I'll have to make sure I remove it from both sides. Don't let me forget, because that'll definitely work. Looks like it got banged a little bit in shipping. Yeah, our hard drive caddies are a little jammed here, but... Oh, no, actually, I think somebody actually put that one in upside down. All good. Nothing broken, so I don't really care. It doesn't weigh a ton, but it weighs enough to inspire confidence, which is honestly more than I could say about the Deep Cool Tesseract. I love that case, and it's got lots of nice features, but it's kind of made out of nothing. This is not. Fans are a little cheap and noisy, but, can't really complain for, what was this, like 50 bucks? And again, it looks so good. I love this blue. We get real slot blanks. That's also more than I could say for the Deep Cool. Back in the day, it had bust out, like, disposable things. Faceplate. It's a nice unbranded mesh. It does say Fractal Design down here on the plastic bezel, which is, like, perfectly paint matched, by the way. Let's have a look at the other side here. Oh, those are stuck too. Can't complain about that. That just means they actually bothered to really fasten this stuff down for shipping. Huh? It's also freshly threaded, I'm sure. That's really easy to get on and off, honestly. Oh yeah, there's still quite a bit of weight on this. Let's see here. Yeah, I think the SSD goes here. I guess it mounts behind the power supply, so that's not like the nicest thing in the world, but that's not a huge deal. That's doable. 3-pin fans, so nothing fancy there. Not that I expected anything else, really. They're probably low-speed fans, so I don't turn them full blast all the time. There's our collection of front panel headers. We get one USB 2.0 port, an HD audio header, and one USB 3.0 port. I do wish cases would give you 2 of each more often than they do. The connection standards are literally designed to do that, and they've been cheaping out so much lately and just giving you 2 total ports. But I can't really fault them for this because every case is like that, and I'm sure it helps cut costs a little bit, especially in regards to the real estate on the front of the case. Now, what's in our little box here? We get some zip ties, lots of screws. This looks like some kind of bracket for holding something. I'm really not sure what that is. I'm sure the manual will tell me. Our standoffs, extra thumb screws, fine threaded screws for putting in the motherboard. And yeah, like I said, a few zip ties, which is... That was kind of nice for them to throw some zip ties in. I usually don't use them because most of the places you're going to use the zip ties are going to be out of sight, out of mind anyway on modern cases. So I would rather, if I'm going to tie something down, I just grab some Velcro cable ties for cheap and use those. But still, for people who don't tinker all the time like I do, I think it's a fine solution. Go ahead and untie all that. They're already fed through the panel there, so that's nice. Pretty easy to access the hard drives down here. You just kind of run the cables right there. This is another minor gripe. This is kind of a modern case design thing, but the hard drive bays always just kind of feel a little tacked on, and there's just all this empty space here. There's nothing wrong with it. It functionally is fine. I just think it looks weird when you have the whole computer apart. I mean, how often do you really do that anyway? But the Deep Cool Tesseract, for example, has a full complement of drive bays on the front, so the whole front is taken up like it would be in the old days, and the fans are mounted from the front. Which I guess they might be here too, but the good thing though is you can mount a radiator here on this one if you wanted to. That's kind of a nice touch. You could also, of course, mount it up here if you wanted to. And it looks like, because of this filter, you actually get fan screws pre-installed up here, and these fan mount spots look like they're usable for 120 or 140 millimeter fans, possibly. Anyway, here on the back, no exhaust fan. I probably ought to add one of those. I'll have to rummage around and see if I can find one. Really, the only knock against this I can think of is that it doesn't come with an exhaust fan. Not that that's super necessary, because on most modern motherboards, the CPU is literally like right here, right up against this, and if you have an air cooler, it just blows it out there. And lots of people opt for 120 millimeter radiators that just mount right there as well, or if you do a 240 millimeter radiator, you can just mount right there, and then the exhaust just goes at the top anyway. So it's not really that big of a deal, but I would like to see 120 millimeter fan mounted there. But yeah, looks like a fantastic case. I'm excited. Let's freaking do this thing. I guess I might as well go ahead and take the faceplate off because I'm going to need it to be off anyway. This is probably going to be annoying because it usually is. Well, actually, is it one that I can... Oh, okay. It wasn't annoying. They chose a design where you can just pull on it. Nice touch. They didn't block off the first bay, so that one's always usable. They only blocked off the second one. I'm obviously going to use both. You can see the fans here. They're really nice, clear. They seem high quality enough. After I unboxed it, I probably should have brought the frame in a little closer like this, huh? Oh well. No big deal, really. Oh yes, the user's guide for the case. I should probably at least have a little bit of a look at that. Okay, you know what? No, we're gonna switch this. This doesn't really work. Why am I even recording this? Okay. Alright, I think that'll work. Let's have a look at our user's guide here. What have we got? In the event of having received a faulty product, well, nothing's faulty as far as I can tell. Limited warranty. Yeah. User's guide. Here we go. Oh, that's a roadmap thing. Oh, well, it's not a huge one. Yeah, that's the whole thing. So it just kind of shows you how each part is designed to come off. It looks like, I didn't even notice, it uses these kind of side panels where they kind of slide it at an angle, and then you fold them back, sort of. That's why they go on and off so easily. I do like that design. And they say to pre-route the cables for the motherboard. Yeah, okay. I can see why you'd want to do that. No standoffs installed by default. That's okay. By the way, I'm also going to mention I have decided to put another SSD in here. We're going to have two SSDs, to be clear. One of these is going to have Windows 7 on it. The other one will have Windows 10 on it. I'm doing this because for a computer this old that's this powerful, I can't really justify not having Windows 7 available to me with as much as I use it. I do actually use it for quite a few different things, and I would like to have something better than my laptop from 2013 or 2012 or whenever it was, which was a good laptop, but it's not going to be near as powerful as this thing. This is a 240 gig Kingston A400. It's nothing to write home about. The Samsung is way better. So the Samsung will have Windows 10 on it. This will have Windows 7 on it. Eventually I want to get an M.2 adapter card, because the motherboard I think has native NVMe support, even though it doesn't have an M.2 slot on it. With that, I can have an NVMe drive for Windows 10, and that'll be that. No big deal. I think for now I'll mount this one behind the motherboard, because the higher priority is getting an NVMe drive for Windows 10, so I'll make the Windows 10 drive the easier one to swap out. First things first, let me see how many screws they gave me here. Just gonna dump them in the little box, I guess. Oh, it came with a nut driver for the motherboard standoffs. That's interesting, I've never seen that. Let's see, I need fine threaded screws for the SSD. Also, this might have been a bad idea. I think I'm getting screws lost in this box. I gotta think ahead here. I need to route especially the CPU power cable. The motherboard one I should be able to route even with the motherboard installed, so that shouldn't be a huge deal. This one needs to be done ahead of time. So basically, at least this case has a real spot for it, unlike the Tesseract did. So I'm gonna kind of feed that up there and pull that like that, just so it kind of stays out of the way. So we're gonna do the motherboard first so that I know how many screws I need, if I didn't say that. Which means I need the I/O shield. Which orientation is that? Okay, yeah, the audio is always toward the bottom, so we got that installed. Looks good from the back at least. Where do the standoffs go? Oh, yeah, I see why they gave us the nut driver. These aren't really pre-threaded, are they? So the three that are on top, and then three in the middle, which is already one right there, so... Oh, that one's going in. That's weird. Oh, wait, maybe these aren't fine-threaded standoffs. Yeah, the fine-threaded screws are for the optical drives and the SSD. That makes sense. Three on the bottom. I forgot, Asus generally keeps their standoff layout quite simple. So now I need the little nut driver thing, and we'll just slip that over each of these. Tighten it until it's not too tight, but tight enough that it's not going to come out. You don't want to over-tighten things that are just screwed straight into aluminum like this. This is actually quite a magnetic screwdriver, I say as I drop it. Oh, but really, it does a good job. Dang it. That was me being clumsy. Okay. That's the standoffs in place. I guess I'll go ahead and route the motherboard power just to be safe. We'll just kind of pull this out here like this. Again, so that it's out of the way. And I'm just doing this in case the motherboard blocks it enough that we can't get it in there. I don't know if it's going to do that or not. Okay, now we lift the motherboard carefully by the edge and the CPU cooler. There's a lot of debate on the internet about whether or not it's safe to lift it by the CPU cooler, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the sturdiest part of the motherboard, and it's irrefutably the most reinforced. I think it's only fair. That is a tight fit. Okay, up against the motherboard power connector there. There we go. I actually like it when there's one that's not actually a screw hole, because it really helps you line it up. It like kind of slides in there and slots down so that the motherboard won't move while you're trying to screw it in. Now I'm going to check to make sure with the one that's like easiest to access, but I think these are actually coarse threaded. Oh yeah, like butter. That's the right kind of screw. Yeah, this is a nice case to work in. I can tell you already. This really is reminding me a lot of the time when I thought it was fun to build computers. I mean, obviously I'm still doing it, so I still find it fun, but it was this era of computing that made me decide that. Cases like this. And again, this case is from 2017, but it's very much designed like an older one. with the exception of the drive bays up here at the front, basically. That's like the only thing that's designed like a new one. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just satisfying to assemble computers in these sorts of cases in a way that it's not in cases older or newer. Perfect. Yeah, that feels really sturdy. Sturdier than most, to be honest. That's good. So we'll worry about the rest of the peripherals and stuff later, but I will go ahead and connect the cables that we already have in place. So let me bend this really stiff power supply cable. Holy cow, that's tough to do. Wow, that's quite a thing. Did I get it? Did it actually click down? I think so. Okay. We're good. Wow, I didn't need to actually pre-route this because it fell out. We had no way of knowing, right? Now the CPU connectors, which you probably can't see me plugging in because of the giant CPU cooler. That's taken care of. There's our power to the motherboard. Where are our chassis fan headers on this case? Wow, that's actually a very generous cord for cheapo included case fans like this. I actually am going to want to take some of that back in, I think. Actually, no, we'll route this behind. We've got so much. I know it seems silly to do this, but it just keeps things out of the way when you do it like this. Because these are the only things they're going to need to go this way. And so it's going to kind of keep it behind everything and out of the way. Our USB 3 header goes in there with a satisfying thunk. Our HD audio connector, it's going to plug into this card if it will reach. I might have to reroute that. I'll deal with that later. I'm not putting that card in yet. Our USB 2 could go into any one of these, really, and I'm going to put it... What have I done here? Oh, no. I've made a mess is what I've done. That HD audio header is going to be trouble. It's just straight up not going to reach. If I run it in front, it might. Honestly, there's barely enough slack to reach the header on the motherboard. This is just kind of too short. That will work. If I run it in front, it will reach. USB 2.0 down here. And these will also, along with the motherboard power connector and the CPU power connector, will all be fed down here to this hole. As you can kind of see, this is just not enough cord to run behind. It takes so much of our slack away when we do that. So this is going to have to, like, I think it can kind of run it. I can sort of make a channel through, like, between the RAM and all this other stuff here, and plug it into our sound card down here at the bottom. I probably would have had to do that with the motherboard's audio anyway, because look at where that is. It's literally like in the same spot. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, but it'll work out in the end. As for, I mean, obviously our power supply stuff is reaching fine. Our USB, that will be just fine. I'm just gonna plug it in right down here. Our front panel stuff, I guess I might as well go ahead and get that out of the way. So it's really hard to reach your fingers down there and do that, which is why I stole our little block thing here. I've already got the speaker on it. Power switch and reset switch go here. Alright, and now we've got the hard drive LED, which is labeled the IDE LED, which is kind of funny. And now we've got power LED positive, power LED negative, and that's that taken care of. And now we can just handily plug this whole thing into the motherboard down here like this, and this will make our lives so much easier. If there was more slack, it would have been even easier than that, but that worked out fine in the end. So, what is next? I guess, might as well put in the storage devices, right? What did I do with my SSD? There we go. We'll start with this SSD. We'll mount it behind the power supply. Putting all this in this box was such a stupid idea. I'm gonna fix that. Our fine threaded screws are exclusively for storage devices, aside from 3.5-inch hard drives. So we'll go ahead and stand the machine up. So I'll show you kind of how this is going to go. The SSD is going to go right here like this. It's going to be kind of hidden under the side panel there, but and I'm just going to reach around, hold it up to the spot with screws in my hand to screw it in. It's not like the most brilliant design in the world, to be honest, but lots of cases do this, especially cheaper cases, so I think it's pretty standard. I do way prefer like the way that you mount 2.5-inch SSDs in my Fantex Enthoo Pro, but that was a $120 case, so I can't really be comparing that to this thing that I was basically able to impulse buy. So, okay. So, there is our SSD, mounted nice and safely. Like I said, I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to install the operating systems on this. This might be the primary or secondary drive. I'm not sure which. It all depends on how I end up having to do it. As for the hard drive, well, as for the second SSD, first of all, it's literally just gonna... Wait a minute. Is that... No. Okay. So that sure looks like another SSD mount on the bottom there, but it's not. I'm just going to throw it on the bottom of the case here and let it live there. It's really not a huge deal. I mean, oh, wait a minute. Huh, I don't have to do that. I did not know, but these hard drive caddies actually have mounts for them, so that's cool. I think it came with screws for it, and I wasn't sure what they were. Oh, well, it came with one screw for it that I think was completely unintentional. That's weird. No harm, no foul. I've got plenty of extras. I'll just have to find my bucket of screws somewhere in this room. Yeah, I'll do that in a sec. For starters, though, we're just going to put the 2 terabyte hard drive in, right here. And this is one of those brilliant designs where you literally just, you take the drive, you line up the pins on one side, and then you flex the plastic on the other so that the pins can go in on there too. Completely toolless. It's pretty brilliant. If you want to further secure this with screws, it does have the 3rd screw holes in there too. But I don't feel any need to do that. This is plenty secure. And then you just take this, slide it in there like that. That's all there is to it. There's not a lot of breathing room. I mean, I guess that's fine. But I could also just... I don't know how hot this thing gets. But I'm just going to slide it on the bottom shelf instead, where there's plenty of breathing room. So that won't be a problem. Okay, let me find my screws. Oh, never mind. Already found them. The magical bin of screws. So I need... What the heck are these? It's weird they didn't advertise this feature. This is nice. Let's see if this is secure enough. Well, okay, there's no play in there, so I think that's good. Standard length fine thread screws should do the trick. But they do need to have a head on them. So ones like these that you usually use for optical drives are what I've got to use here. It's very cool. I'm very glad I noticed this. Okay. Well, there is our second SSD installed in a configuration that the case didn't even advertise was supported. So that's pretty neat. I'll just slide that in there. Cool. Alright. That was a pleasant surprise. Next, I think it's time for the optical drives. Figured out a better way to utilize my tripod here. So now, you should be able to see me installing the optical drives. So we'll start with the TSST from the AMD A10 machine. I'm not the biggest fan of these. They just don't seem quite as good as the retail models of these for some reason. Like, these are good drives, in theory, but the ones you could buy in a store seemed to consistently be better than the ones that were put in computers from the factory, and I don't really know why. One question is, how far back is this supposed to be installed? I actually don't know. I'm going to work off the assumption that it's supposed to meet with the front of the case here, which seems to be true. Just like the old days, we're just gonna throw 4 screws in here, just get it to line up on both sides. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job at keeping this whole process in frame. I've never been particularly good at that, but this has been especially bad this video, and I apologize. I'm out of practice, as I keep saying. Okay, so there is the first of 2 optical drives installed. And now, we're going to remove this panel here. I think it's just supposed to hinge down. Yeah. Ooh. That was startling. It was fastened to the front as well as down here at the bottom. Okay. Got it. Alright. Pretty cool design though. Really well made. And it's designed to break in a way that's going to be out of your way, which is great, because I've had a lot of cheaper computers not stinking do that, and then you have to like file down these sharp edges for you to even get the drive to fit. And there are still screws in this drive. There we go. Alright. There we go. So this is, as I mentioned before, the drive that I bought when I built my Skylake machine. Oof. It's going to be hard to get the power plugged in on that one. It's right up against the motherboard power connector. Oh well. It's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. If I didn't have flat connectors, I think it would be literally impossible, but thankfully I do. Okay. So I think we're ready to put the faceplate back on now. Here's the faceplate. It's time to remove these. These are not single use, thankfully. You just kind of push in the clip with your finger. Oh, these have filters on them. How nice. If you did want to leave these in there, they'll filter your air. There we go. Kind of keep pulling on that clip until it releases fully. Do the same on the other one. These manage to be substantial without being annoying. Not bad. Alright. Brilliant case design. I'm really liking... Let me try that again. I am really liking this case. Except for the fact that there's styrofoam all over my faceplate. Okay. Of course, like with all faceplates on cases like this, you just push them on. And this is the part where we discover that I did not mount the optical drives where they needed to be. There's a huge ridge here. So, we pushed them forward one notch. I thought that might be the case, but it was hard to gauge. If I was smart about this, I would have put one in, checked my work, and then put the other one in. Or I would have just worked with the faceplate on in the first place, now that I'm thinking about it. That would have been a good idea. Let's actually, I'm going to try to put this on. Okay, got it on. Now we can check our work. Ow! Gosh! Ah! I don't know what I did there. I pinched myself between the case and the optical drive, but I don't know how or why. Gosh, that hurt. Okay, I'll be fine. I really just got startled because I wasn't sure what happened. Okay, so notch number 2. That's where we need this to be. Some of you are going to be like, oh, it's so staticky in this room, why aren't you wearing static bands? Well, because I'm not a loser. No, I'm just kidding. I've never had a computer bust on me because of that. And, I don't think it's going to start now. I've barely touched the motherboard thus far, so I'm sure it's fine anyway. Plus, I've learned recently that it's not near as big of a deal as people think it is. Yes, it can break things, but it's less about the magnitude of the shock and more about where it gets shocked. It's hard to shock it in a place where it really matters that much, it seems. Which seems weird, but I've been pretty careless with all my computers all my life, and I've never had a single one fail. So I don't really think it's something you need to be that worried about. I do have a static band that I could be wearing, but again, I just haven't really felt like it was that necessary. My finger really hurts from that, I'm not gonna lie. It's really, really stinging. Probably would have, definitely would have been easier to do had I not screwed all 4 of the screws into the notched holes on each of them. Feels solid. Honestly, it looks pretty sharp like this. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm loving this case more every second, if I'm being honest. What next? Ah, yes. Okay. I guess it's time to install the power supply. Power supply. It's not going to be that hard on this case, really. Fan down. Well, actually, it supports fan up or down. I prefer fan down. Some people prefer fan up. It just is a matter of how you want to design your airflow in your case. So, it is a big power supply, but hopefully we've still got plenty of room to plug our cables in. If we don't, I did notice I can remove the drive cage. So, I can do that if I can't get my hands in there. We'll just drop this down, turn the case, get it screwed in. No, you can't even see what I'm doing. It doesn't quite fit right. I think something is pressing on the fan, or something. Oh, I think it's the feet. I think I can get it, but I think I'm going to have to support it with my foot. and get it screwed in before I set it back down, or at least get it started. It's not a fan of this. Hold on, we're gonna have to get creative here, aren't we? First real complaint is whatever the heck is going on here. I don't really understand. I've pushed the filter off with my foot. Okay, that worked. The other screw holes are still not really lined up. I don't know if it's the case's fault or the power supply's fault. Either one of them could be manufactured to poor tolerances, to be honest. The power supply isn't, you know, state of the art or anything. Ugh. Don't like that noise. Doesn't mean anything bad. It was just like the little plate back here kind of buckling as I was putting that screw in because it just doesn't really fit. It's not like I'm doing this wrong. There's only, you know, one way to really do this. Let's have a look at the bottom now that it's fully installed. Yeah, I mean, there's the fan. It looks right to me. I don't know what could be wrong anyway. But we'll start this process by plugging in the main board power. It's getting easier all the time because this is finally starting to get a little broken in. Next, we'll do CPU power, which I think is, yeah, it's right over here. Come on. There we go. Okay, those are the only cables present at the moment. I guess we've gotten this far. Might as well give it a test power on, right? Just make sure that we're not wasting our time here. Did I plug in the power button right? I sure did. Smells like new parts. Fantastic. We're off to an excellent start. Well, really, we're like halfway done, I guess, if you want to be technical about it. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. Even more excited now. I kind of dropped the power cord on the sound card, but it'll be fine. What is next on the agenda? We really are, well, we're more than halfway done. We're almost done. So let's go ahead and we'll get the rest of the expansion cards and stuff put in. I probably ought to go downstairs and find the little rubber pieces for this. I mean, it's not like a huge deal, but it is a little loose. Yeah, I'm getting really excited. There's like almost nowhere for the motherboard power cable to go, which is a little bit annoying. But honestly, I think it's still going to be better than the Tesseract. It doesn't seem as bad at first glance. Alright, yes, let's lay this back down. We'll start with the video card. Of course, eventually I'm hoping to replace this GeForce 7600. It's a GTX... I called it a 7600. It's a GTX 760 with either a GTX 780 Ti or an original GTX Titan. The 780 Ti is actually a little more powerful in games, but the Titan has more video memory and more compute cores. And for me to be able to install this, I'm going to have to remove these blanks. I kind of forgot about that step. So I'll go ahead and explain. The video card obviously goes here, as it does in basically every computer ever. This is PCI Express 3, as is this one, and this one. These two smaller ones are only ×2. So video card's going to go here, sound card's going to go all the way down here, on the very bottom one, and then when I get my NVMe adapter card, it's going to go right here. Because these two are electrically ×4 slots. This one I think is actually a ×16. It's a ×8 slot on that one. Okay, so this is ×16, this is ×16, this is ×8, this is ×4, and these two are ×1. So NVMe card is going to go right here. Sound card is going to go right here. I don't have the NVMe card yet, so you're not going to see that in this video. I'm just telling you what my plan is right now. So this is a reference-ish. I'm forgetting to remove the blanks again. A reference-ish 70 or 760. It's not exactly identical to the reference card, but it is very close. I absolutely love the 700 series reference cards, so I'm hoping to get a reference 780 or Titan. They're like metal with huge heat sinks on them. It's just neat. I mean, the reference cards always look good, but I feel like the 700 series cards are just especially iconic. Ugh, that one is being stubborn. Alright. Got all those out. Here is our GPU. Our rather old school GPU, as it were. Click it all the way down. Put our screws back in. I'm going to give up on trying to spin them with my fingers because it's just not going well for me. Oh, that was my elbow. Just popped randomly. Ouch. Okay. Okay, nice and sturdy. Here is our sound card. As I mentioned before, motherboard audio might literally be better in terms of raw quality, but this has the old creative sound card features that I want. So, and it goes down here. It's not quite lining up for some reason. I think the bracket may be tweaked a tiny bit. There we go. I got it. This is such a sharp looking computer. This might be my best looking computer now, which was not my goal setting out. That's kind of ironic, really. So here is... Ooh. I don't know if there's enough slack for that, but I just realized I could have run this underneath the GPU. Maybe still can. I might have to take the GPU back out. I don't know if it would work anyway. What the heck? Only one way to find out. Can't reach the release with my finger. There we go. So, run this under here, like so. Then plug the GPU in. There's plenty of room for it, so that's good. Okay, now let's see here. Yeah, I've kind of got the fans in the fan cables in the way, don't I? Let's try to shove those out of the way. There's just not really a ton of slack, but fresh pin connectors again. Hey, that works though. That does indeed work to keep things out of the way. It looks a little funny, but if you don't look super close at it, you're not going to notice anything is weird. And that's all that really matters, right? There's not any lights down here or anything for it to block, so that's good. Alright, dude, just look at the back of this machine now. Like, even just from the back here, this is a good looking computer. I don't know how to explain it. I just think it looks super duper sharp. Alright, well, we're almost there. So I guess it's time for us to start running power to our peripherals. We're going to need 2 sets of SATA connectors, I think. Yeah, I think 2 should do it. So we'll do one for the optical drives. I'll go ahead and get those in there if I can. Oh, that's going to be hard. Okay, got it. I'll do the other one. This one's going to be a tiny bit easier, because I'm not dealing with the motherboard connector, but it's still way up there. There we go. Okay. And now we'll run this. Oh, you couldn't even see me doing that. I'm sorry. I can at least show you. If you look here, that's the SATA power connector that I just plugged in right up against the motherboard connector. And there's the second one, not quite as bad. We're just going to throw these through this little hole up here. Perfect. All right. Now we're going to plug this into the power supply down here. If I can see well enough. Okay. I might have to remove the hard drive cage. I just can't quite get my fingers in there. Maybe if I unplug these. Well, but I don't want to do that. That's going to make things confusing. Okay, we're just going to remove the hard drive cage. It's not a big deal. It's just these 4 screws here. It is an optional part, so you are supposed to be able to remove it. Oh, it's screwed in on the back too, huh? Okay, hold on. For good reason, I'm sure. Okay, there we go. We'll put that back in before we're done, obviously. Now I can plug things in. Okay, got it. Optical drives plugged in. I guess we don't need the peripheral, like the Molex peripheral connector at all. So that's nice. There is our GPU cable 1, GPU cable 2. You could use just one, but I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. Okay, and here is our SATA. Oh yeah, this will be good. So these 2 are gonna plug in over here, like so. And then the last one will come over here and smush that flat. There's a really nice thing about these being ribbon cables. This is pretty easy to do, really. Plug that in like that. And then this just tucks straight in here. I'll get that plugged into the power supply real quick so that it will stay put. Fantastic. And there's just going to be one that's not going to be used, but that's okay. And while we're here, there we go. I have a very short SATA cable that will either go to this SSD or one of the drives over here. I think it'll actually be easier to get it to go to this SSD. So we'll plug one side in here. We'll just kind of feed this through the rest of them because I think it will be kind of like this. We'll plug into one of these. I don't actually know which is 1 and which is 2. We'll just plug it into one. We'll swap them if we need to. Okay, wait a minute. That's not really ideal, is it? Let me try this instead. That's actually too short, isn't it? Okay, so that'll go to... I think that'll go to the other SSD. We actually need a longer one. A longer one that's not angled, however. Do we have one of those? Oh, well, that's an option. We can actually just... We can plug the angled side into the motherboard. Because the way this case is designed, that's pretty handy. And then I think there should be plenty of room for that to kind of collapse. You don't really want to bend SATA cables at 90-degree angles like this. At least not hard bends. So we're not going to force that to do anything it doesn't want to do. But we can then just come down here and plug it straight into this SSD. Does that actually go? Okay, yeah, there we go. That feels wrong to do, but you can do that. Good stuff. I think that'll work just fine. As long as that doesn't get smushed too bad. But honestly, there's plenty of clearance. I think it should be fine. I need to get the GPU power connectors ran. Well, I say ran. We can't really run them anywhere. It's literally like, there's nothing fancy to do there. So, we'll just plug them in. I'm getting my head in the shot, I think. I'm sorry. That's upside down. Ah, oh my gosh, dude. Where is the... There we go. Okay. Well, actually, this isn't a very power-hungry GPU. I say let's just use one for right now. It will just make things a hair easier, really, and a little cleaner. So we'll just use one cable for right now. This is only a 150-watt GPU or something. It's not a huge deal. That's enough. That's enough for right now. And I'll just try my best to kind of fold this out of the way down here, like so. Lower fan is clear. Yep. Alright. Let's put the hard drive cage back in. Oh, actually, while it's still out, I'll run the SATA cables for the optical drives. I have two very cheap, old, red SATA cables for that. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing again. I'm sorry. I keep doing that. We'll start. I know why this is so hard. The CPU cooler is usually much further to the left on modern motherboards. This is way over. I think it's because there's a memory bank on each side. And I'm not even going to bother running this in any sort of fancy way. We're just going to take these and plug them in right over here. And, yeah, these are the SATA 2 ports, so, yeah, we're going to do that. I'll have to try to shove these to a spot where they're not going to be in the fan. I mean, maybe I can use the memory as a crude cable routing channel again. That seems to be working. Yeah, it's not the case that's cramped. It's because of the motherboard and the layout of it. But I think that'll work. It'll do just fine. Alright, so we are really almost done now. Just got to put the hard drive cage back in, and I guess I'll start by screwing it into the back. Oh, I see. Okay. Wait, no, that's not it. It was over here. I can't really see, but I think I'm getting it. We got it. However, I seem to have bent the cage on the motherboard cable, which is a bit annoying. What else am I missing here? Like, what's going on? Well, that's not quite lined up right. Looks like you could scoot it over if you wanted to or had to, which is kind of an interesting touch. So there's that. Now we can put our drives back in. Spin the case back around and figure out how we're gonna attach these suckers. Yeah, I definitely tweaked the bottom by installing the power supply, which is really annoying. But it'll have to be okay. Power for the hard drive. Power for the other SSD. Uh-oh. I don't think I thought this through. Well, I think we'll make it work. This is going to be a bit tight here on this SSD. In fact, it may not actually work. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to... Yeah, I'm going to plug it in while I can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to slide the drive back in. Work smarter, not harder, right? I'm just going to twist that so that it's not being pushed on. Run it up here to the other SATA port. That seems good. Now I have to hope... Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't. You do the same trick again. Why not? Because it doesn't fit. That's why not. We may need to swap these cables. No, there's room. There is room. I think. Nope. No, there's not. We have to swap the drives around again is what we have to do. I don't like how little room there is for the mechanical drive to breathe like this, but you gotta do what you gotta do. It's not that bad, really, in the grand scheme of things. It makes me uncomfortable. This has become a little bit jankier than I was hoping, but that's okay. Getting SATA cables connected for some reason always kind of feels like a puzzle. It's just hard to do it right. So then we'll just come down here and plug this in to this very last port on the AS Media controller. We'll plug in the power. And is that our last connector for this build? I think it might be. Kind of wish I had run that behind the motherboard power, but oh well. This will fit like that. Okay. That might be it, guys. Kind of hard to get that to stay flat because it doesn't want to. Maybe I can do something goofy like this. There we go. That works. This USB 3 cable is kind of just too long. Better than being too short, but man, that's kind of annoying. I can't seem to get it tucked out of the way. Whatever. I think it'll be okay. Is that really everything? I think that's everything. I guess it's time to close it up. Well, no, it's not time to close it up. We need to turn it on and check if it still works. That's the rule, right? I already said it once in this video. Can't see the lights anymore. They're blocked by the sound card. Did a little reset for some reason. There we go. I don't know why. It just does that reset sometimes, it seems like. Alright. I think we are good. We'll start with the rear panel. We'll save the best for last, because putting the fun see-through panel on is always the best part. So, yeah, this isn't a very thick panel. Doesn't have a whole lot of room for routing, but we'll have to make do. Oh, well, it's considerably better than the Tesseract still. I just have to get it to cooperate. This is literally have to do every modern computer. Like, they want you to run the cables behind the motherboard, and then they barely give you room to do it, and then you have to, like, smush everything down like this. How bad is it bowing? I've seen better, I've seen worse. It is what it is. Just kind of feel behind here, make sure I'm not smushing anything I shouldn't be smushing. No, I think we're good. Well, as good as we're gonna be, at least, you know? The SATA cables have plenty of room to breathe, so that's good. Here is the acrylic side panel. Alright. There's one on the other side too. We'll save that for after I get it put on. Oops. I can't get the screw to go in. Come on. What are you doing, bro? That one screw just doesn't want to go in. There we go. There we go. It's looking a little foggy. Well, that's a cool noise. Look at that thing. This looks properly from about a decade ago, inside and out. I dig it. I dig it a lot. It's a beautiful case. It's a beautiful computer. And the only new part in here is the case. Every single other part in this computer was used. Well, the two fans that came with the case, I guess, if you want to count those. But, like, it has aged, but it has aged gracefully. It looks cool. I genuinely think this is a cool-looking computer. Let's power this sucker on and see what it does. Alright, so I've got one monitor, keyboard and mouse, and that's it. That's all that's connected right now. I didn't connect the speakers, or the second monitor, or even the Wi-Fi antenna, so we're just going to find out if this thing does the bare minimum. I think. Let me make sure nothing else is plugged into my hub. Okay. First, real power on.
Okay. Let's hit delete to enter setup. Okay, I need to... Oh gosh. Wow, that really confuses this when the DPI is that high. Wow, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, we got Windows Boot Manager 1, Windows Boot Manager 2. We need to nuke these drives because they've got stuff on them. And so here's our system. There's our RAM. There are 4 modules. There's just 8 slots, so they don't all show up at once. Looking good. Looking very, very good. Let's look at our fan settings here. These are all set to variable speed. I want them to just be manual. And I'll have to go to advanced. But this is a much earlier version of the Asus BIOS, as you can tell, before they redesign it and stuff. It looks nice and clean. I actually really like this version. But so, oh wait, I don't even want this set to manual. That's not what I want. I want it set to off. Okay, that'll do it. So, the rest of the stuff can stay put. Good stuff. SATA configuration, we're detecting everything. We got Samsung SSD, Kingston SSD, TSST Corp, Asus, nothing else on the primary controller. There's NVMe configuration. See, if I add an NVMe card, it should show up there, I think. In onboard devices, I don't know if we can see stuff plugged into the as media controller. No, I can just enable or disable hot plug. That's okay. And there's the Marvell stuff. That's like a RAID card. That's why I didn't plug the hard drive into that, because that would be weird. It's not really what I want to deal with. Anyway, this is fantastic. What else we got here? I already went there. System agent configuration. Okay, that's cool. It's not a quiet computer. I mean, it's certainly not loud, but most of the noise is this annoying buzzing from the GPU fan. Now, there's all that stuff. I want to get rid of all of that. Okay, there's the hard drive down there showing up. So that's cool. Just wanted to make sure that was all good. All right, let's got NIC settings, it looks like. Now on both NICs. Oh wait, no, you don't get any settings on the Realtek card. You just get settings on the Intel card. Anyway, we will save changes and reset. Yes. Oh. Those actually make a pretty considerable amount of noise. It's not like wildly loud or anything, but man, they are bright too. Wow. This is gonna try to boot, and I bet it fails. I don't even know which Windows installation it's trying to boot from. There's 2 of them on here. One from an A10 and one from another A10, actually. Oh, hey, it actually did boot. I'm still going to format this, but that's funny. Got my Windows 10 install flash drive plugged in. And actually, what RPM are these fans running at? Okay, so like 1300 basically. That's pretty typical for fans like this. Boot from the flash drive in EFI mode. That should take just a minute. Also, you'll notice this video card doesn't support EFI, so like it's not detecting the monitor correctly. Windows 10 Pro. I'll have to go find my key, I guess. I have an extra, I think, or something. Okay, so firstly, we're not going to touch this.
This is our data partition. This already has my stuff on it. I transferred it to that drive already. Now we're going to go ahead and delete all the partitions from this 240 gig. We'll go ahead and redo the partition table in this one too. Then on drive 1, we'll create a new one, and we'll do like, what's 90% of that? I want to over provision this a bit. It's going to be 429245. Okay. To ensure all Windows features right, we're going to create multiple partitions. That's crazy. Go ahead. All right. There we go. And next. Alright, so obviously, as you can tell, we're installing Windows 10 first. I guess I'll try to install Windows 7 off of a DVD in a little bit. See if I can't get that pulled off. Hey dude, can I interest you in a base system device? I have never seen this happen. I don't know what's going on. That's very, very weird. I got the display driver installed though, so I guess we can just restart and see what the heck happens there. Okay, let's see if that fixed anything. No, it did not. Okay, I need to install the motherboard chipset drivers, I guess, but that is really weird. Also, I need to rename the stinking computer. I'll do that. Got AI Suite 3 installed. It is very, very similar to what it is on my Ryzen board, actually. The interface, I think, is a little cooler, as things just typically were back in these days. But the fan tuning screen is the same. Let's go ahead and tell it to do the fan. Warning, do you want to continue? Okay or no? Okay. Guys, I'm not sure if I ever tried this optical drive in the other computer that it was in, but it doesn't work. It didn't make all the crazy noises it made last time, but it's still not showing anything. Oh! Okay, so it works sometimes. That's weird. I might need to swap that. Whatever. Very, very weird. Just finished swapping the optical drive with another nice drive from a dusty old computer. Does happen to actually be from 2013. It's one of these LG M-Disk drives. And I've never tried it until now. I plugged it into a USB enclosure before I brought it up here, and it does in fact work. It works very well, in spite of it being caked in years worth of like garage dust. Like this was outside, and yet it's working beautifully. So that's a great sign. I'm going to leave it in there as the primary drive. While I was down there, I happened to find this CD from my dad's Core 2 Duo machine from years ago. First of all, I like how it says Asus Rock Solid Heart Touching, and this one says, what does it say? Inspiring Innovation, Persistent Perfection, or something like that. And then eventually they change it to In Search of Incredible, which is also funny. Like they're all just funny. But anyway, this disc has never been used. I opened it. This was like still totally flat, like it had never been opened. Because the computer had Windows Vista pre-installed on it. They didn't need this disk to do that. But it does have a sticker in it that matches the one that would have come with this motherboard. So we're going to put that on because I would like this computer to look cool. Look at that thing. It's a nice little sticker. It's a pretty snazzy sticker, really. Maybe I'll get a G4 sticker for it as well when the i7 sticker comes in. it'll go right there.
It seems like I kind of made the mistake of trying to install a bunch of Steam games, and it's just not really cooperating. Steam is just being all Steam about everything, and things aren't really installing. I don't know what's going on. So, that said, I guess I'm probably not quite finishing this project tonight, because I just want these things to download. Or at least get to a point where they're, you know, not super far away from being done. Which means, in the meantime, we are not going to be installing Windows 7. Maybe tomorrow or the next day or sometime when I actually feel like doing that, I will install Windows 7, and then this video will be finished, actually. But until then, I think I'm probably signing off for the night. So, again, it'll be a couple seconds for you, and probably several hours for me, but when I come back, we will wrap this thing up.
Guys, I'm very annoyed. I pulled out the bag of screws again, trying to see if I had any fan screws in there. And then I was like, wait a minute, I still don't know what some of these screws were for. And I started looking at the manual here. And what do I see? The regular fine threaded screws say 2.5-inch drive screw. The extra thumb screws say optical drive screws. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make myself do more work so that I've done this the right way. Oh yeah, and also I'm fixing my fan situation a bit. I still never put an exhaust fan in there. I can't decide if I want to use this crazy thermal take fan that used to be a CPU fan for another machine, or just this cheapo fan for the exhaust fan. I think I'm going to use the thermal take, although it is like literally twice as powerful as this one, which of course has ups and downs. This is a good fan. It's quiet too and moves quite a bit of air for what it is, but this thing's crazy. Like I said, this used to be a CPU fan. In fact, I would use it on here, except that it's a 3-pin fan, and most modern computers aren't really a fan of using 3-pin fans for your CPU fan. They will complain if it's not a PWM compatible fan. I don't really know why, but that's been my experience, so we're going to keep using the Cooler Master Excalibur here because it is a 4-pin fan.
Well, yeah, guys, I installed the exhaust fan last night. It did wonders. The computer runs much cooler now, and I've really been using this quite a bit the last few days, and it's just wonderful to use. I mean, it really, really is. It's fast. It feels pretty stinking modern, really. Like I said before, it's got 16 gigs of RAM, 6-core chip, hyper-threaded, and this GeForce card has yet to actually pull any punches. I've been happy with this so far. I haven't tried to do anything on here that I've even remotely wished I had something faster, which is kind of a shame actually, because I really want an excuse to buy a 780 or a Titan, because I think that'd be really cool. Maybe I'll just do it anyway eventually, but as it is right now, I'm going to leave it like this. Of course, we still have an unused SSD in this machine that I'm planning to put Windows 7 on, so that's what we're going to do now. Hopefully I can get Windows 7 to install. I've got my very, very official copy of Windows 7 here. I do actually own Windows 7, I just don't own a Service Pack 1 disc, so that's why I have this one that I downloaded somewhere. Because this one is Service Pack 1. So, we're going to go ahead and, I guess I don't really need the headphones plugged in for right now. We're going to, not that you can really see, but pop open the drive, put this disc in there. I know you can install Windows 7 from a flash drive, but I just have this handy. And there's our disk. Okay, we're going to go ahead and restart the computer and get into the setup utility and access the boot menu. Now I'm hoping this has an EFI boot option. If it doesn't, CSM is enabled here, so it may work anyway. Yeah, I don't see any EFI boot options here. I wonder if there's like a trick to do that or something. Oh, that's an interesting thought. I could probably use Refined if I have to and just straight up boot an MBR disk. I really need to. Let's just try booting from the DVD drive and see what it does. Also, this is a DVD RAM drive. I didn't even notice that. That's cool. Oh yeah, that's certainly in BIOS mode. Well, if nothing else, we can install this in BIOS mode, and then I can convert the disk to GPT. I did that on my laptop. So, there's third-party software that will do that, and it does a very good job of it, so we can just do that. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so as you can see here, we're definitely in BIOS mode because it defaulted to the hard drive, and it says Windows cannot be installed to this disk because it's at the GPT partition style. So we select our unused SSD here. We'll create some new partitions. As you can see, yeah, it's going to create 2 partitions for BIOS mode boot rather than the normal 4 for EFI boot. So you got system reserved, which is the actual bootable partition, the active partition, and the main partition here. So this is going to be a typical Windows 7 install. Nothing exciting. I do absolutely love that the hardware scaling on these NVIDIA GPUs of this era seem to love this monitor. And it's actually putting bars on the left and right so that it's the correct aspect ratio. This is like the best I've ever seen the setup screen look. Okay, so I just finished installing Windows 7, and before I actually try to install drivers or anything, you know, potentially wasting my time if I screw this up, I do want to go ahead and convert it to GPT. But before we do that, I want to show you how this thing boots. So I'll have to get into setup here, access the boot menu, go back to the boot menu, we'll select the Kingston SSD here, can you focus please? Well, anyway, you can kind of make it out. I think it's really neat that you can actually see the boot screen in the correct aspect ratio. Booting in BIOS mode here. Here it is. It's quite fast, as you might expect. I love using it like this. Here's our disk. Windows 7 is large. 64 Windows 7. With updates and things, takes up 35 gigs, it seems. Which is... wow, seriously? I didn't realize it was that much. Jeez. Well, anyway, this isn't a very big SSD, but I'm sure it's fine. We have our data drive, and this is our Windows 10 drive. Now, something I do want to mention, you should always do when you're dual booting Windows like this. Come over to System Restore, and just double, triple check that System Restore is turned off for your other Windows drives. This doesn't really affect Windows 7 and up, but on Vista and below, so ME, XP, and Vista, it will automatically try to enable System Restore for all of your drives. You do not want that, because if you have to run System Restore and it's enabled on your other drives, you can break your Windows installations on your other drives and cause other crazy things to happen. So be careful and make sure that when you're dual booting, you only have the system drive enabled on System Restore on each respective operating system. As you can see, it's got all the right specs here and stuff. And if I were to open Task Manager, where you can see our 12 logical CPUs, which is always fun on Windows 7. So yeah, I'm going to go find whatever disk I used last time to do this conversion, and I'll do that real quick. Sure shuts down quick too. Once I get that converted, I will use EasyBCD probably to configure the multi-boot on the Windows 10 copy of the bootloader. And I personally like using the classic bootloader because the Windows 10/8 Metro style one is horribly inefficient and makes boot times ridiculously long. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to take care of that. Okay, so it seems we were successful. We'll see if this actually boots or not. I am say it's got about a 50-50 shot. Okay. Good sign. Now, there is a problem sometimes with this process where it maps the wrong drive to C afterwards. So,
And that's exactly what it did. I'm going to hit the reset button before it screws anything up. And we're going to boot into Windows 10, load the registry hive, and fix that. Interesting that the reset button did a hard power cycle. I haven't actually hit the reset button on this computer yet, so... Usually what happens is that no drive is mapped as C. So, maybe what I should do is... Well, no, let's double check we can still boot into Windows 10. I don't think it's going to just screw anything up, but you never know. You never know with Windows. It certainly is taking a while. Dude, I freaking swear if that somehow broke my Windows 10 installation. It's not doing anything on the disk. So I rebooted and I got the meaningless overclocking failed message, and now we're doing a check disk on every single drive for some reason. I don't know what point in the boot process it locked up at, but apparently it was writing to every single partition. Because that makes sense. Literally, it has checked like four partitions now. So cool. So very cool. I've literally never seen this. What even is that volume? Oh, now we're repairing the Windows 10 volume. Okay. Very, very cool. Okay, so after the check disk get rebooted, then it tried to run startup repair, which failed. Then I restarted and now it just booted. Functional software. So I'm forced to assume that the reason all that happened is because the stupid thing mapped the Windows 10 drive as the C drive under Windows 7, and it probably corrupted the Windows 10 file system because it was no longer accessing the drive that it thought it was. So now I have to physically open the machine and unplug the Windows 10 drives before I can continue this process, because I have to figure out what drive the Windows 7 drive has ended up mapped as before I can do anything else. Okay, so side panel is off. It's over there. I reached in here, I yanked the SATA cables for the mechanical drive and the Windows 10 SSD, and I left the Windows 7 drive plugged in. And this thing means that it was unable to load my user profile, which means that the C drive is still not mapped. This will sit here for an absurdly long time doing absolutely nothing. And then when it finally loads, I should still be able to launch Task Manager and figure out how things are mapped. Task Manager is basically the only thing that will work because it's a self-contained program. So, the Explorer won't load, themes won't load, no system services are really going to be working, so it's going to be a janky, half-working, if even half-working, copy of Windows 7 that I'm just going to have to briefly browse around and figure out in what way things are messed up. And then I can boot into Windows 10, load the registry hive, and fix it. Okay, so yes, as you can see, we have signature Windows 2000 blue, and a debug watermark down here that says this copy of Windows is not genuine. That's because the software protection service isn't running. Now, if I'm lucky, Control-Shift-Escape. Okay, yep, we've still got Task Manager on the classic theme with the like the Windows 98 colors even. Wow, that's kind of weird. And this still renders correctly somehow. That's interesting. If we look at processes, I guess some user rights things are still working, but as you can see, user account control isn't working, which means anything that needs administrator permissions I cannot use. Most services aren't working. Lots of things are missing their groups. It's just a bad deal. But we can sort of do things. So if I go to New Task and click Browse, we should be able to go to the computer and see that, okay, so our C drive has ended up as the F drive, and System Reserved has ended up mapped to E. So we need to probably unmap E completely. We don't need it to be there.
and map F to C. And I will show you how I'm going to do that. I've done this a couple of times now, so that's pretty cool. And just for kicks, let's actually try to launch a program here. Let's see if I can launch Notepad. Oh, yeah, Notepad works, interestingly. Oh, it's like reverted to like Windows 3.1 mode with the Windows and stuff. Yeah. Regedit won't work because I can't use user account control. So yeah, that's that. So now we just go to, well, we'll exit Task Manager. I'll hit Control Alt Delete, and we will just shut the computer down. And I'll reattach the other drives, and we'll boot into Windows 10. Okay, so we're back at the Windows 10 desktop now, and I've actually done this using a Hiren's boot CD as well, so you can do this from Windows PE. Anyway, I just refreshed myself on how to actually do this. It is quite simple. Let me make sure, first of all, that we do in fact have our, yep, there it is. It's drive H. Almost said F. It's drive H. Okay, so now we go to Regedit. Yes, just the regular registry editor. And yes, we're going to make changes to our device. So now you will expand H key local machine, come to File, Load Hive. We're going to come over here to our new Windows install, Windows, find System, or no, I mean it's System32 system.dat. Wait a minute. It's config. I'm forgetting a step here. Okay, config system. It's not even system.dat. I'm thinking of ntuser.dat. It's just system. So we can name it. I'm just going to call it thing because I'm too lazy to type anything longer. And then if you expand it, you will see, obviously the Windows 10 one has more, but you can see this is the equivalent of the system tree here. So here is the system hive. And we'll go to mounted devices. Now there's all this weird stuff. It doesn't really, it's really not too complex. So the mount for C, we're just going to delete that. We don't need that. Here's the mount for F. We'll rename it to C. And I am going to go ahead and, I should have exported this already, really. But, oh well, doesn't really matter. I'm going to delete E as well. That'll let it kind of regain its footing here, I think. It should at least. And if I screwed that up, well, we can just boot back into Windows 10 and fix it. But as it is right now, let's go ahead and restart. And we'll select our Windows 7 drive and see if it boots. Okay, I just realized I did forget a step. You should really close the hive before you shut down Windows. I think it saves the changes anyway, because it should close the hive automatically when you exit Windows, but it's best practice to close it manually. But hey, it's working. We're in Windows. And we don't even have system reserve drive showing up. Hey, ta-da! So, we are in Windows 7, booted in GPT, in EFI. And just to confirm that the disk is, in fact, in GPT format, man, I really cannot type like this. There we go. You can see the EFI system partition there. If we go to Properties, Volumes, GPT. So anyway, we have no drivers under Windows 7, so I'm still going to have to use Windows 10 to fix the rest of this. But before I even do that, I'm going to try to fix our bootloader. So we're going to go ahead and reboot. Okay, so this is Easy BCD, which is only free for personal use. Honestly, you can do all of what I'm about to do with built-in tools on Windows, but frankly, for some reason, I cannot fathom the BCD command line utility parameters, so I always do it this way. So if you see the boot menu, you have Windows 10. First of all, I'm going to uncheck Use Metro Bootloader because I think it's stupid. I'm going to click Save Settings. Then we're going to come down here to, not Advanced Settings, Add New Entry. Windows Vista 7, 8, 10. This is all the same entry when you're on EFI. You can do some crazy stuff, but most of the options will not be available on EFI mode. You have to use BIOS mode for most stuff here. So really, this is the best way to do it. You can add a VHD file if you want to, like, you can totally boot Windows 7 off of a VHD. It's super weird. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to type Windows 7. And this is, what is it, our H drive? Yeah, okay, so that's H drive. We're going to select the H drive in this drop-down box and click Add. And if we come to Edit Boot menu, you can see it there. In Advanced, you can check this box. I'm going to actually go ahead and do that on Windows 7 because a lot of modern Windows 7 drivers are unsigned for various reasons. That's totally optional. It adds a little watermark down here that says Test Mode, so if that bugs you, don't do that, I guess. But enable Hyper-V support. See, I don't even know what some of this stuff does. It's kind of weird, but this is the important one. You can also check that on Windows 10. On Windows 10 it can cause some weird problems, so I don't. Plus, I don't usually need it. It's mainly a Windows 7 thing. But yeah, so now that we've got that, we're good. This is on the BCD store on the Windows 10 drive. You could do this on both if you wanted to, but there's no real need to do that. Shut up. Yeah, let's go ahead and reboot and see if that worked. It is kind of annoying how long modern Asus motherboards sit here on this screen. This isn't even unique to this board, it's all of my Asus boards. Anyway, here we are. Like I said, I disabled the Metro bootloader because I think it's annoying. This is the classic one. I'll just come down here to Windows 7 and hit Enter. And it says the digital signature for this file couldn't be verified. Huh? Temporarily disabled device signature enforcement. What? Huh. That's weird. Well, Windows 10 still works. Maybe I can't do it this way. Okay, so from what I understand, this is because Windows 7's bootloader, at least the version of Windows 7 I have here, its bootloader isn't signed, and the Windows 10 boot manager expects it to be signed. So we're going to try to just enable that on the Windows 7 boot option from the command line. And this is confusing because you see disabled integrity checks here. That's actually... First of all, I think that's wrong. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. I don't think that's actually disabling signature enforcement. I'm actually going to undo that because I don't think that's useful at all. Yeah, that's what that was. So we're going to enable this no integrity checks thing because that should make it not check that. Yeah, so I just copied the identifier here. Put it here, no integrity checks 1. It says it completed successfully. We'll try it again. Try it again. Nope. Still says that. The digital signature could not be verified, which is a bunch of crap. Why is it doing that? Yeah, it does not care that I've told it to not check. So, like, it didn't freaking set the thing, as you may notice here. There is no new parameter there. We're going to try it again. You see that? The specified command is not valid. What? So first of all, I figured out the reason that error was happening was because this is one of those very common instances where PowerShell does not work with a built-in Windows utility. Secondly, freaking Secure Boot's been turned on somehow. And that wasn't me. I didn't do that. It was off. I promise you it was off. I don't understand what has happened here. This is getting ridiculous. I swear I came in here and had this turned off. Like when I first set the machine up. I don't think I need to clear the keys. Let's just turn it off, I guess. We'll see if it magically starts working without me even setting that parameter. I don't know. We'll see. I'm running out of memory card though, because I've recorded way too much footage for this video. I cleared the memory card twice, I think. Oh my gosh, it's working now. Dude, you saw Windows 7 was booting. So what turned Secure Boot on? So I screwed up and I have to do all of this over again because my product key is for Windows 7 Professional. I don't know why I thought I ever owned Ultimate, because I did not. It was Professional that I found a copy of in an old box of PC parts a while back. So now I have to reinstall freaking Windows and do all this again because I can't activate Windows. Alright, well, with the Bluetooth driver still installing here and showing Skype, which should really date this computer, I decided that I probably ought to try and run my product key before I do all the conversion stuff now and make sure that I actually even write about about it even working. And well, I guess you have to do phone activation now unless it's just a certificate problem, but I got it activated and it is working. I haven't converted the disk back to GPT yet. And as soon as the Wi-Fi driver finishes installing, I'm going to unassign this disk a drive letter, and I'm thinking maybe we can avoid the weird problem we had by leaving only the C drive mounted. I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, this is taking for freaking ever. It took a long time last time as well, so... Oh, there we go. But yeah. Shut up and shut up. There we go. Let me remove this. But yeah, so at least I righted this. We're on... we are on Windows 7 Professional now. So, that's that problem solved. Okay, this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. The Windows 7 login screen at 4K. It doesn't fill the screen. Anyway, apparently if you want to install a current graphics driver on Windows 7, not only do you have to install the SSH 2 signing update or whatever, but you also have to enable unsigned driver support because they don't sign drivers for Windows 7 anymore, which is just great. Love that. It's just great. Helps everybody so much. I'm so glad they do that. So now I have the wonderful test mode thing for my freaking NVIDIA driver. Well, Windows 7 is installed and working great. I've got all the drivers on here, including all the various sound drivers and whatnot. So, on the internet's working. And I think I have all the NICs installed. Yeah, there's the Intel and there's the Realtek one. Okay, well, seeing as I've got about 6 minutes left on my memory card, I think it's time we try hooking this thing up to a CRT. So I do realize this will also effectively be our first time being able to see inside the machine as it's turned on. It's really dark in here. All this set up, let's hit the power button. Looks nice in there. Let's see what we get on here. Oh, my cousin's texting me. We have an image. It's kind of hot. Like the video level's too high, which is a little weird. Well, anyway, let's boot into Windows 10 and see if it behaves itself. It may set the wrong display mode, and I have to boot into low resolution mode before I can get it set right. We'll see. No, that's good. That's good. What are we at here? 1024x768 at 60? Yeah, it's really... Well, I mean, I guess that's what I had it set to, but it just seems very bright somehow. Anyway. Display settings. Let's get this going. Oh yeah, it doesn't know what this display is. We're setting up barcode reader? Is that what my PS2 adapter looks like? Okay, we'll do 1280 by 960. Looking good. And it doesn't have a clue what this display mode is. It's lost its parameters. I really hate the way that... Oh, wait. No, that's right. That's right. Okay, well, let's... Advanced display settings. Display adapter properties. Monitor. Let's see. One of my buddies told me that there is actually a driver for this monitor on here. If you look in the right place. P780. Okay. Word. I did not know that. Alright. It's still showing the wrong modes, I think. Let's see if it refreshes when I... No, it doesn't, but that's okay. At the very least... No, it's still showing all the wrong stuff. That's weird. What about if I open the NVIDIA control panel? Oh, the classic low memory card light is flashing on my camera now, just like on the old Handycams. They used tapes. Oh yeah, my sound is good speakers. Well, the NVIDIA control panel knows what we're dealing with. That's kind of weird. Oops. Well, you know, that's fine. First things first. That's 75 Hertz, and that is actually scanning a little short for some reason. Also, the camera's lost its ability to see the screen, which is to be expected. But, yeah, sorry. That's going to not be pleasant for you for a bit. Yeah, no, the black level is bad. Let's turn that down to like right there. That looks good. Now, how about we launch this? I haven't actually run this yet. 1280 by 960. Oh, it didn't change the refresh, so you're still suffering. Sorry about that, but this is what I've been wanting to do this whole time. This is like literally the reason I did this whole project almost. Gosh, that is terrible. I'm so sorry. Yep. Alright. Well, this is a successful project. All things considered, even through some of the absurdities I had to deal with. This is great. This is genuinely great. Alright. Well, thank you so much for watching. As long as you did, given that this is a crazy long video with very little structure to it, honestly. And I hope to see you in the next video.
Very small addendum. I think I'm going to have to turn the power supply over because that is just inhaling the carpet. That ain't going to work, dude.